We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully your day is going well. It is Tuesday. We had a hell of a day Monday. We've got plenty to talk about. And fortunately, I have someone joining us that will give me a hand here because we need some other perspectives and other insights as we talk about kind of a horrific day for a lot of folks. I have Tony from South Carolina. Tony, thanks for joining us today.
It's a real pleasure. We're finally on, and despite the technical issues that I'm having, but I think it's going to be a good show.
Yeah, the technical difficulties, I think we can probably blame on the Supreme Court. I don't know how, but they're fucking everything up at this point. So we might as well blame it on them.
They're single-handedly, the five of them, taking the country down to ruin. It's an absolute shame. I can't even call them a Supreme Court and actually mean it. There's something else. They're a criminal organization in their own way. It's a shame what they're doing to the country.
Well, in case there are people out there that don't know what we're talking about, I'd find that hard to believe. We know that yesterday we'd been waiting for the decision on Donald Trump's question of absolute immunity. They did not give him absolute immunity. I knew they wouldn't do that. But what they did do is give him partial immunity in the sense that under official acts of a president, he has, or every president has immunity. Unofficial acts, he does not. So they tried to split the baby there. And instead of actually coming up with a decision, the highest court in the land wasted 6 months and then is sending it back to the lower court to decide what's official and what's unofficial. Some people seem surprised by this, but we knew this was one of the options. This isn't really a surprise. It may be the worst of the possible, well, second worst of all the options, but this wasn't a surprise. This sounds exactly like the Supreme Court.
Yeah, this was what all the pundits were going to call, and they were right. It kicks part of the can, it sends it back to the lower courts, and it just adds more delay. The issue where it becomes really dangerous is when you get a criminal like Trump, if he wins the election, and then he's got all sorts of unlimited power. But in the near sense, it's going to delay his trial until long after the election. We're talking about next summer, not even a few months after the election is over.
Well, and I've talked about that before. People seem to be really concerned about these court cases coming before the election. And as far as I'm concerned, the fact that we got the Manhattan district done before the election, that's enough. I mean, Jesus, we're talking about 34 felony convictions. I mean, how many can you pile on them to end it for Donald Trump? So if it comes after the election, Donald Trump's going to be in a totally different situation. He won't be protected. He'll be vulnerable, and he will get hammered. A lot of people think that this decision means those court cases are done. That's not what that means. They may not be able to charge him with everything that they did initially, but he's still going to be charged with some things. He's still going to trial. This doesn't get him off completely in spite of what Donald Trump is saying.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that happened were right after the election and right before he became a private citizen. They don't appear to be part of the official core duties of the president. They may be in the partial duties of the president. So, for example, his discussions with Mike Pence to throw the election, that is now considered part of the president's duties. Any discussion he had with his attorney general are part of that. But anything to do with, let's say, the electors or any of the other events that came up after, and Jack Smith has a lot more evidence than we even know about. That's all should be relevant. And now the problem is going to be, Judge Chutkan will say, this is relevant, this is relevant, this is relevant. It'll be appealed, it'll work its way back up. So it's the delay. So let's just hope she does what we call the evidentiary hearing, where they air out all of the evidence in a hopefully a public way. We hope that's done, rather quickly. And if nothing else, at least that information gets out to the public.
Yeah, and that's something that Donald Trump's team doesn't want. They don't want the evidence out there. I mean, let's put it this way. Whether he gets convicted in this trial before or after the election doesn't matter. But if we're going to air out all the evidence prior to the election, that will have the same effect in as far as Donald Trump's chances of even coming close in November.
Yeah, I still think it's too tight of an election. But as I mentioned earlier to you offline, panic is not a bad thing. Social media is ablaze with panic, as our side are saying, look, it's not just about Joe Biden's poor performance. It's about the Supreme Court. It's about Project 2025. There's so much more on stake, and they're begging people to go ahead and get out there and vote. So let's hope that's exactly what happens. But the Supreme Court has, as you so politely said before, has again showed its colors and who they are.
Well, I want to disagree with you a little bit, and I've done it before in the podcast. You were saying this election is very close. I'm going to tell you right here and now, and you can call me on it after the election. This election will not be close. It may be the widest margin between presidential candidates in history. I mean, that's what's going on now. There's so many things. People are mad about Roe v. Wade. What happened yesterday with this Supreme Court decision, this is going to scare everybody else even more. This is going to cause people to run to the ballot boxes, and there's going to be an even bigger turnout, I believe, from 2020.
Yeah, Mike, I actually agree with you. As long as I've known you, you've made the proper calls on these. There is the hidden masses that are not in the polls. The polls tend to skew towards people that are home and answer their phones. It doesn't collect information on Gen Z, the millennials, and then the rest of us that are just living on our cell phones. So the polls have been widely inaccurate. However, the fact that the polls are showing a close race lights a fire under the ass of everybody, and I think that's a good thing. Panic is a good thing. Anger is what the other side is using. Our side is using panic, and I think panic is going to work just fine. The fact that we don't want that information getting out there, that you and I in particular believe this is not as close as they make it sound, because people are wanting to get out to the polls. And I don't think his side is as Trump's side is as motivated as our side.
No, and that's my quandary in doing the Rational Boomer podcast and the TikToks, is that the media and everybody else is prone to trying to scare people. And they use the excuse that, well, that'll get more people out to the polls. I personally don't think they need that kind of motivation, and I have trouble trying to manipulate the audience. I want to give them as much comfort as possible. Just because I tell somebody, don't worry, you just need to vote, that doesn't mean they're not going to vote because they're going to rest easy. There is nothing about this campaign that is causing Democrats to rest easy, from Roe v. Wade to the convictions to now the Supreme Court decision. I don't have to motivate them. They're fucking ready to vote right now.
Well, I think, and I've said this often about you before, as things look gloomy and dark, you're kind of a light that shines with your podcasts and with your TikToks that says, whoa, ho, 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 look at this. Let's be realistic about what's actually going on. You're not telling people to take these things lightly, but you're also
No.
easing our emotional pain as we see everything that comes out of the so-called media that represents so much of the corporations in this country. They're panicking us on all sides, and it's truth tellers like you that are saying no need to panic yet, but you need to get out and vote. You
Yeah.
need to stop all these bad things. So I would never say that. I think we need you. I think we need others like you to tell us the truth, but also to kick us in the ass at the same time.
Right, right. Well, there's one other thing that came up, and I guess this shouldn't be a surprise. And a lot of people will hear it and then they'll freak out about this. Let's just set this aside. The moment this comes out from the Supreme Court, of course, Donald Trump's lawyers or legal team go to Judge Juan Maran and says, well, we're immune, so you might as well cancel this case and not sentence me on July 11th. That's not going to work.
Well,
it's not going to work.
That's not going to work. The only thing about Juan Maran, like a lot of judges, he tends to run, and I'm going to use the word conservative. So he eased off on the gag order. If he was a patriot, he'd stick Donald in jail for a year. He would use the sentencing to help the country, but I don't think he's going to do that. I see house arrest, probation more than likely, And it's a shame because I really do think if he does sentence him and then he says, we're going to do it right now, you're going to jail right now, I think that would be in the best interest of the country. And yet he's already getting the judge is already getting death threats anyway. He might as well make it worthwhile in the best interest of this country by locking this guy away. I just don't think he's going to do it, but I hope he does.
Well, a lot of people will say that that they don't think he'll get jail time. And I'm not sure what people base that on. They may base it on, past history, but as I've said before, we're dealing with something we've never seen in history. So to compare it to what's happened before, it's kind of apples and oranges. I wonder if Judge Juan Maran isn't more prone to put him in jail given these circumstances. Judge Juan Maran is a conservative guy, but he is a rule of law guy. He's what's fair
Well,
guy. And the thing about it is Donald Trump has these um, violations of the gag order. He didn't just let them off that. He said he's going to put a hold on his decision on that. So those gag order violations may also come up on July 11th when he's giving a sentence for the 34 felonies. So I'm thinking what I would like to see, give him a year for the 34 felonies, let him appeal it and say, yeah, but you broke the gag order after I fined you 3 or 4 more times. So you need to sit in a can for about 3-4 days just to set the tone. That's what I'd like to see. I don't know that that's what he's going to do, but I'm not so positive that he's not going to put him in jail. There's too much shit around this to not put him in jail.
well, and I hope so. July 11th is my birthday. That would be the greatest
That
birthday
would be.
present ever to for him to actually be put in handcuffs and taken off to Rikers. I'm just not positive that the judge is looking at this as historical. I think he's looking at cases that have come up that are similar to this, and most of them end up with no jail time. This is way too serious. I mean, he can be a patriot, or he can be just another old guy following what has happened before, and Trump just kind of not getting it away with it again. So I don't know. I would think that if he puts him in jail, that would be in the best interest in the country as a whole. People will get a chance to then voice their votes on this guy. I would love to see him not be able to go to his own Republican convention. I mean, if nothing else, that would be something for him to be in jail when the Republican convention's going on.
Yeah, yeah, that would be interesting. And if they put him in jail for 3 or 4 days or 4 or 5 days because of the violations of the gag order, he would miss the convention. The only thing I would say, what do you think about this? So the judge sits down and says, you're going to be sentenced to a couple days in jail for the gag order. You're going to get a year and a half for the 34 felony charges. Does that work in Donald Trump's benefit in terms of whipping up his base? I mean, it could.
It may whip up his base, but it also whip up a lot of enthusiasm on the other side.
True.
So the biggest impact would be on the independents and the non-committeds, or the hate both sides people. They have enough evidence right now to go, this is a one bad guy for our country. But if he gets some jail time and he gets a sentence like that, it's just one more aspect that they consider for not only not voting, but going to the polls and not voting for him, which would make a big difference in voting for the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there were some dissenters on the Supreme Court. Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown Jackson, they were pretty strong dissents. And usually they'll start out by saying, I respectfully dissent. I don't know if you noticed, these dissents
Yeah.
didn't involve respectfully. There's a lot of dissension going on within the Supreme Court. But the thing about it is another person who dissented this was Joe Biden. I mean, people were wondering what's Joe Biden going to say, and Joe Biden was strong and he was direct. He was dissenting of this decision, but he said something that I thought was interesting. First, he says, no one is above the law, not even the president of the United States. And he warned that the Supreme Court's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits to what a president can do. Now, he may be right or wrong about that, but to me, that sounds like a message to the Supreme Court. I'm the president, motherfucker. Now I can do whatever I want. And the question is, do you think they got it? Do you think they understand it?
Um, I listened to the speech. I thought it was canned, and I've said this on the show before. I've never been a big Joe Biden fan. I think that I'm on the case where I think he should go ahead and drop out. There's a lot of stories, and these are only stories about how the White House is managing his moves, his efforts, especially Jill, his wife, and trying to keep him away from interviews, trying to keep him out. So he supposedly he's good for a few hours during the day. Um, I He had his opportunity to pack the court. I mean, he had the opportunity to pack the court, and he didn't do it because he believes in the status quo. So I do think if he stays, I think he's going to get reelected, which is fine with me. But then what? Is he going to pack the court? I mean, the most important thing right now is the Supreme Court. I think enough of them will just stay there because they're evil bastards that he may not get another opportunity for a nomination.
Well,
And we need that.
well, I will tell you this, Tony. I feel like you're
And
falling into the trap that everybody else does, Democrats and Republicans. He has the one bad speech or one bad debate. Yeah, he's got to pull out. And then you're hearing these stories. And what do we know about most of the stories that are negative about Biden? They go up in the
yeah,
ether and they bounce around a while. But if you find out what the origins of those little messages, 9 times out of 10, they're coming from Republicans. So now you're getting sucked into what Republicans tell you. I always find it funny that people say, well, that one debate, Joe Biden's got to pull out. Donald Trump's been convicted 34 fucking times. He's been found liable of rape. He's been indicted 4 times, impeached twice.
absolutely.
Nobody's saying he should drop out. If anybody should drop out, it's Donald Trump. And there's
I
talk about him being pulled too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I don't understand why the Republicans are letting this criminal uh, guide them into the abyss. Uh, I was thinking about Joe Biden long before the speech. He was looking stiffer. He was looking old. He had promised to be a one-term president, and he didn't keep his word. He's not the only person in the world who can beat Donald Trump. And my fear with him is the same fear I had with the Supreme Court judge who stayed too long, and with senator from California who stayed too long. Old people just don't want to, and we're old. You and I are old. They don't want to give up anything, and
Yeah.
he's just I felt this way long before the speech. The speech just sort of just it was one bad debate, and I totally agree. It was one bad debate. But I haven't been a Joe Biden fan ever since he started running again when he had promised he had. Now, having said that, I would vote for an upside down dead turtle in a fetid pond over Trump. And I would recommend everybody in the country do the same thing, because the damage that one man has done, Donald Trump, has been incalculable to this country.
Well,
So yeah, all right. I'll make comments about Joe Biden, but I'll be there standing with him if he's our nominee.
right. And that's fine. I said the same thing right after he got elected. People would say, is he going to run again? I said no, because he said he was a transitional president. And I said he'll be too old. And I still stand by that. He is too old to be running for president. The problem is now we're 5 months away from the election. Do you want to upset the apple cart because of one debate and risk what might happen in November? I don't think there's any question that Joe Biden beats Donald Trump by a lot, by a lot. I think what Joe Biden needs to do is just rehabilitate himself. I mean, let's be honest, after the Supreme Court decision, how many people are talking about the debate? People have short memories. They forget about things. By this time next month, they won't be talking about the debate. They'll be talking about the sentencing of Donald Trump or some other crazy shit he does. I think people jump the gun too fast, and it doesn't help us. That's what I get tired of people doing. They start whining and crying all right away, and it's of no help to us. It's just nothing
No, it's not.
but a drag on what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is a discussion between you and I on a podcast. The fact is that it to me it appears like people in power in the Democratic Party are moving pieces around and have been moving pieces around. So I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I think there's been a concerted effort to move Joe and get him to retire. And so it's not us; it's the James Carville. It's it's other people within the establishment. It's the New York Times, and those folks don't control the elections. And frankly, then they're not being helpful by publicly saying what they're saying. We're on a podcast that'll reach a few 100,000 people. These people reach millions,
Right.
and they're doing is amplifying something that's not going to happen. They should have kept everything underneath, worked it out with the Biden campaign, the Biden family, and then stood by like the soldiers they should be and say, Joe's our guy. It doesn't matter. We'll
Yeah.
wheel him out when we need to wheel him out. And he's still 1,000 times better than the alternative, which is what he says himself.
Right. And if you were going to pull Joe Biden out, you should have done that 2 years ago. Right now, we're in a situation where we're 5 months out from the election. It's too late to do it without causing more problems, more drama, more stress, and possibly a defeat. Because there are plenty of people in Congress that would be great candidates, but can you do it in 4 months? Can you put it all together in 4 months? What are we going to find out about this new person that's going to come out that the Republicans are going to fucking explode? We might as well stay on track with what we're doing. Get this thing won. And what I've said before too is Joe's going to be 83 or so after he's president. That's too fucking old. All I want from Joe Biden is to make it to the election, make it to the inauguration. And then after that, if he says, I can't do it anymore, I'm going to retire, I'm cool with that. My interest isn't just getting Joe Biden as president. My interest is getting the Democrats in power and the Republicans out of power. Then after that, I don't care what Democrat is the president.
Yeah, I saw something today that a good ticket would have been the vice president and one of the senators from Georgia. But that's just wishful thinking. We're not going to have a brokered unless something happens to Biden between
Right.
now and his own convention, where he really has a stroke or something major. I just don't. He's our guy. He's our standard bearer, for better or for worse.
Right.
If he gets elected again, great. If we keep the Senate and we get the House of Representatives, to me, that's almost more important, in some ways, because
It is.
or as important. We obviously don't want Trump in office, but we need to retain power in both houses. It's the only way. Right now, the biggest impact on our lives and on this country is the Supreme Court. Between them, it's almost a tie between how dangerous they are and how dangerous Donald Trump is.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in a mess right now, and it is of our own doing. The reason we are where we are is two reasons: the way we vote and the apathy that we had. We've woken up now, and people are focused on what's going on, and they're fearful of what might happen. So in some respects, that's good. But regardless of what's happening now, the ultimate answer to everything is to vote Donald Trump out, vote Republicans out, and then we can start back at trying to fix things. It's going to take a while. We're in a deep hole. I've likened this story to say you got a guy who's kind of a dirtball. He's getting evicted from his apartment or his house. Okay. Now he's a dirtball and he's mad that he's getting evicted, even though he hasn't paid his bills for 6 months. So he's getting evicted. And because he is the type of person he is, he's going to rip apart the property, punch holes in the wall, break the windows, tear up the rugs, and all this stuff. This is what's happening with the Republican Party now. They know their time is short. With the young people coming up, they know they're going to be gone. So they're getting pissed and they're going to do whatever they can to disrupt or create chaos. And that's what we're experiencing now. And what people have to understand is it's probably going to get worse before November. So be ready.
Yeah, that's right. And if they did this to themselves, by allowing the far right to take power. I mean, they basically ignored the far right for so long, but used dog whistles to get them to vote, and now that allowed a path for Donald Trump to show up in 2016. And now it's basically an extreme far right party, and it is so. It is not the Republican Party that was there forever, and it's their own fault for doing that. But that just means they're a clear and present danger to the rest of us, to our liberties, to the way that we live, to the way that we love, to the way that we receive healthcare. All of it, everything, every aspect of American life is affected by the far right nonsense, and we have to rise up. We talked about apathy. Um, Shame on anybody who sits this out. Just shame on them. Anybody who sits this out because they don't like the old man that's running. Anybody who sits this out who thinks he didn't do enough with Israel, and all the rest of the excuses that they use not to get off their fat asses and go vote. If it doesn't go our way, they're the people that are responsible. They were the people responsible in 2016 for not having a perfectly decent candidate in Hillary Clinton become the president. None of this would be happened if she had been elected. None of it. And unfortunately, it was the apathy with a little help from the head of the FBI who put this in this situation. And it's now at the point where it's truly a danger in changing our democracy to something that won't be recognizable if Donald Trump wins.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But we do, I mean, if you listen to people, there are people out there that are going, all is lost, it's Armageddon. It's not. It's never over. There's always an option. There's always an angle. And we have a few angles here. Now, what the Supreme Court basically did, according to Justice Sotomayor, is that made the president a king, that he can't be held responsible for any official actions, and he can always argue that every action he does is an official action. So now we've got to litigate all that every time a president does something like that. But here's the deal. This decision will help Donald Trump delay his court cases or maybe thin down his court cases. But he's not king because he's not the president. Joe Biden is the king. And Joe Biden has a lot of authority now that he didn't have yesterday or the day before because of this decision. The question is, will he use it? Now, most people think, well, he's too good a guy, he's too honest a guy, he wouldn't do anything about it. But I said something in TikTok. We're talking about official acts. What is the one first job of every president? To defend the Constitution. Is Donald Trump, the Supreme Court not putting in danger our Constitution? As much as Joe may not want to do certain things, but if Donald Trump is a threat to our Constitution, as president, he has a responsibility to do it. And now he's got free reign to fucking do whatever he wants.
Totally agree. I mean, I know what people should be telling him, but will he do it? And that is the question. His comments today are the Supreme Court are not going to fix these issues, so it's up to us to vote. So that kind of gives you an indication of where he's going. He's really depending on the election. And after the election is over, if he was to lose, he would have only a limited amount of time to use his official duties to do anything about it. So, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I like the guy personally. I always have. I just don't think I think he should have left when he said he was going to leave. And I don't think he was the best choice we had in 2020. And I don't think he's the right choice for handling emergencies right now, though he has probably one of the most competent administrations we've ever seen in our lifetime.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, he's really got the professionals. So let's just, I'm hopeful, but I am not super hopeful.
You're not super hopeful of what?
I'm not super hopeful that he'll use the power that was given to him today by the Supreme Court in any meaningful way to end the threat. And that's what we have. It's a threat. It's almost a wartime threat. And Trump would do it. Trump will do it if he's in there.
Right.
He'll have 50,000 new political appointees all throughout the government. There'll be no guardrails.
Well,
So,
here's the thing. Joe Biden isn't the kind of guy that would, you know, take advantage of anything. And I understand that. I've said this on a TikTok and some people didn't quite understand what I was saying. Um, I don't think it's likely that Joe Biden would make any drastic decision prior to the election because he doesn't want to change the tone or the perceptions of him or anything like that. He wants to keep everything the way it is. But after the election, I know you said it's a short time. It's really not that short a time. It's about 2.5, 3 months before January 20th. And once that election is over, especially when he's reelected and going to be president anyway, he got nothing to lose. He doesn't have to run again. At that moment in time, he could stack the court. I mean, let's be honest. As king, as total immunity, he could make a directive that says the NRA is a terrorist organization and we're going to treat them as such. He could say that all felons cannot run for president. He could do that. He could stack the court. Yeah, normally you got to go through Congress and all that stuff, but since I got immunity, I'll just start appointing motherfuckers. All that's possible, and it's unlikely that he would do that. But when the rubber hits the road, if this country's in danger, don't think that Joe Biden won't do something because he's got nothing to lose.
well, the best thing he could possibly do is stack the courts. I mean, we're talking about, he could put in 3, 4 more justices on top of the ones that are there, and then run the old conservative bloc out. I'm sure they would retire. If we have the House of Representatives, they can go ahead and do an impeachment, at least against Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
Which I mean, yeah, Clarence Thomas is not going to come, and even if he's subpoenaed, but they can at least do that. So, I mean, winning the election, a lot of good things could happen, and and that's worth thinking about. The rewards of us winning are amazing. I really do think that the House of Representatives is going to go ahead and at least impeach Thomas and maybe Alito, but we have to win. We have to win.
Yeah.
We have to get out there. We have to vote, and then hopefully the Congress, if it's a Democratic Congress, will go with Joe and say, look, we got to do something. We cannot live with this Supreme Court for your second term, and hopefully they talk some sense into him, and then he does something about it because he has the power to do it. They no longer need 60 votes to put in a Supreme Court justice. We do to them what they did to us, and we pack the court, and that solves a lot of problems in the United States. They can go back and look at every court case that this Supreme Court, starting with Citizens United, and then just start. That wasn't precedent, not precedent, it's not precedent, it's not precedent. We can get rid of it. So there's an upside. There's a real positive upside to taking over the reins of power. It's not just about saving the democracy. It's about starting to fix the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what people have to understand. It seems dire right now. It seems to some folks like the world is going to end. And when I do TikToks and I do the podcast, what people are witnessing my own neurosis. From when I was very young, I taught myself to not panic because it didn't work for me, and just sit back and then overanalyze it from every possible angle. Okay, I got a problem here, but what's the way out? What's the answer? What's the fix? And I do that with everything. It sounds crazy and it sounds chaotic, but it's something I've always done. So it's not that big a deal. It just kind of happens. So when I go on TikTok or go on the podcast and tell people the things I'm saying, this is really me settling in my mind. Okay, we got this problem. What's the way out? What's the answer? How do we fix it? And I just say it, and thankfully some people get some benefit from it. But there's always an angle to everything. And while it seems dire right now, like you say, we're fortunate that the onus is on us. We just have to vote.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
Right. And all this damage is happening 5 months out. As you just said a few minutes ago, American public has a short memory. We all saw January 6th, all of us, and yet somehow it's been forgotten. Probably, I mean, why is it forgotten? It's one of the great moments in history. It shouldn't be forgotten. It's the equivalent of the moon landing.
Right.
I remember the moon landing. It hasn't changed in my memory. I remember a lot of the historical events that happened through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. This was as big as any of those. This was as big as 9/11. How's it forgotten now? And so, for some reason, as a population, we've gotten either dumber or we have been totally brainwashed and manipulated. I tend to lean towards a combination of both. So, what happened the other day, what happened today, other than the resentment and the anger that we will take with us in November elections, I mean, it's going to make a difference. I know our side is not forgetting today. Our
No.
side is not forgetting this entire session of Supreme Court, and then we haven't since Roe. Since the fall of Roe, the Supreme Court has been big on our minds, and we're seeing it with the judiciary across the country, where a conservative judiciary is not acting in the best interests of our people.
Well, this is a bad decision and people are upset about it. It seems to me that the Supreme Court continually tries to sabotage, unintentionally, stupidly, sabotage the Republican Party. They overturned Roe v. Wade maybe 6 months before the 2022 election. We were promised it was going to be a red wave. They thought, oh, people will forget about overturning Roe v. Wade. Are you fucking kidding me? Of course they're not going to forget about it, especially women. I've been married for 40 years. My wife remembers everything I ever did and reminds me of it every fucking time. So they thought that they could slip that by and people would forget, and they were soundly spanked in 2022. No red wave, a thin margin in the House of Representatives. So now we're coming to 2024 and they fucking do it again with this decision. And this decision is going to be just as big a deal to the Democrats, at least, going into this election. This will inspire them and motivate them to come out and vote. But the big deal is, while they're inspired by this decision by the Supreme Court, they still haven't forgotten about fucking Roe v. Wade. That's still hanging in their fucking minds. So you got two big decisions to motivate people to go out and vote in November. And that's why I think the Democrats are going to come out in fucking waves. It's going to be unprecedented. That's my guess, given all that's gone on.
Well, I live in South Carolina. So
Right.
we have a number of Facebook groups here, and you go into any of the group, and generally somebody will say something, and you'll hear, well, Biden did that. And then there'll be 10 remarks about how bad the Democrats are and Biden. And this is like Aiken information, which
Right.
is stuff about Aiken. And there's lots of similar groups. What I'm seeing now is I'm seeing palpable anger of our side now hitting those trolls right back. And
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that before. Well, this is a small sampling, but it's different now. There is definitely a palpable anger and hatred towards Trump, hatred of the Republican Party, hatred of this. I mean, actual hatred of the Supreme Court. I hope there's no violence, but I think people are that angry, and now they're not putting up with the shit from the trolls on and making comments about anybody. They're just not putting up with it anymore. And I'm
Well,
seeing this over and over and over and over again.
we keep hearing about if Donald Trump is convicted, if he goes to jail, there's going to be a civil war. The Republicans are going to step up and they're going to fight and there's going to be violence. I don't think that's true. We haven't seen any evidence of that since January 6th. They're pussy ass bitches. But I've said this
That's
before,
right.
with as scared as people are about Donald Trump getting back in office, I am worried about violence. If there's any thought that he has a chance of getting back in, there's a lot of people that are angry, but there's a lot of people that are scared. And that's a bad recipe for violence. And you could end up seeing violence from the Democratic side, even though that sounds crazy. But if you tell somebody, I'm going to take away your democracy, take away your government, turn this into a shithole for your kids and grandkids, People are going to be pissed and they're going to be afraid, and it's going to, I hope it doesn't come to that, but that's something people should be considering.
Oh, I totally agree. We have as many weapons as they have, and we've got more people than they have. I think a harbinger of that will be the convention in Chicago. If the convention goes peacefully and there's no violence, just your standard protest, then I think our side will be fine. I mean, we tend to be a little bit brighter than the other side. We usually a little bit more even tempered. We're not as freaking crazy, for even though
Yeah.
we have our crazy, we don't have them in the big numbers that they do. Our armed people know how to handle their own firearms and keep them away from the public. So the convention is going to tell us a lot, I think, about our side and
You know,
how angry are they. Will they cross the line? Personally, I don't think so.
I don't think you're going to see much in the with the Republicans at the Chicago DNC convention. I'm more concerned about the Milwaukee convention with the Republicans. I mean, they're in a shitstorm right now. They have no money, they have no sponsors, they have dissension in the ranks. And you might see Democrats going out. I mean, Donald Trump himself said Milwaukee sucks. So people in Milwaukee, if you know people in Wisconsin, they don't like that shit. I'm more worried about possible chaos and maybe violence at the Milwaukee convention than I am the Democratic convention. I think the Democratic convention will be fine because we have more
I,
unity in the Democrats.
did you see Bannon going to jail today?
No, I didn't, but I was
All
thinking
right, so
about it.
Bannon was there. Marjorie Taylor Greene was with them, and they were trying to speak. And the crowd behind them was our people, our people, and it was, you guys are traitors, blah blah blah, whistles and yelling and screaming. It made me proud of the people that stepped out there. That's who I think will show up in Milwaukee. I think it's going to be a shit show outside. I think it's going to be a shit show inside. I don't think it's going to show the Republican Party in good light. If I were your standard Republican, who's really an old school Republican, but pretending to be MAGA right now, I'd stay as far away from that circus as possible. What you don't need is extra notoriety. You don't need your name associated with that, what that's going to turn into, because it's not going to be good. I doubt they'll have very many entertainers show up there. They may have to go down to Mexico and and bring up a mariachi band just to play, because then nobody else is going to go and play for that convention.
Well,
But
that's
that's what I think.
that superstar Kid Rock will no doubt show up.
Yeah.
He was really hot 30 years ago. Anyway, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. And what people have to understand is, in about 9 days, Donald Trump will be sentenced. 4 days after that is the convention. So they're going to have the convention with all the shit going on, and it'll be 4 days after Donald Trump is sentenced to whatever he gets. That convention in Milwaukee is going to be a mess, and I'm going to turn that motherfucker on and watch them self-destruct. It's going to be it's going to be hilarious. Donald Trump just gets sentenced, say he gets sentenced to jail, and now they're going to nominate him as their candidate. That's
Well,
going to be fucking awesome.
I think if nothing else comes out of the sentencing, I think the judge there realizes having him in jail during the convention is one of the greatest acts he could do. Even
Yeah.
if he doesn't put him in jail for a year, if he just does that in payback for the gag orders, that's appropriate. That would be appropriate. That would be a fitting punishment. That you always want the punishment to fit the crime. He violated the gag order. Let's put him in jail during the time of his nominating convention. I mean, that would be the most amazing gift we could get, I think.
That would
Rather,
be.
yeah, I mean, so I'm hoping that's what my birthday is going to look like. I turn on the news that day, and oh, he's been sentenced to 1 year probation. Oh, by the way, and 10 days of confinement starting immediately. That
Yeah.
would be amazing.
That would be amazing. I tell you what, Tony, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. We got plenty of other things to talk about, including the decision the sentencing, the conventions, and Steve Bannon. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. So hold on. We will be right back.
Yes, sir.
We're back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We're talking about the Supreme Court decision and some other things. Tony joins us from South Carolina. We've got a robust, rousing conversation going on about all that's happening in this world. And I think people are getting a little nervous and a little scared, Tony, with all these things. The last week, as you pointed out, there's a lot of shit that happened that seems negative. But I'm a firm believer that out of negative comes a lot of positive. For example, the debate. Everybody was worried about the debate. Oh my God, Joe Biden's going down. But when the polls came out, in spite of the fact that I don't like polls, the polls said that Joe went up. He fundraised something like $20 million in a short period of time. People rallied behind Joe Biden at that time as opposed to abandoning him. Now, there are some people that did try to abandon him, like James Carville. James, you're a country fuck that hasn't been in politics for 30 years. You're not more important than me or Tony or anybody else. I don't give a fuck what you say. If people tell me we're going to pull Joe Biden right now, that is the kind of panic that is not good. That's a reaction. That's about emotions. And when you make that kind of decision, you almost always fuck up.
Well, first of all, about the debate, yeah, no doubt about it that Joe did horrible, and all we're finding out is that 77% of the people don't want either candidate to be running, and that is nothing new.
No.
We have not wanted this replay of 2020 forever. So yeah, I'm surprised that number is not even higher. I don't want this opportunity to pass without beating up on CNN. I thought the moderators were horrible. I thought the moderators did this country a disservice. There were times when they let Trump just ramble on that seemed almost like 5 minutes long, so way above that. And then there were other times that they just cut off President Biden when he was trying to rally. And I will say, probably President Biden had too many facts and numbers and figures. He was over prepared as well as just being old. But the fact was, the moderators did not stop President Trump from espousing lie after lie after lie. There was not one bit of pushback. I don't even know why we had moderators there. And so this was the last straw for me. I've been anti CNN now for a long time, and I've pretty much got rid of the apps and all the rest that had anything to do. I will never turn CNN on. I just don't know. They're just as corporate as can be. They seem to be more interested in news and newsworthy stories and whatever they can get for ratings. That's the bottom line. They're in it for the bottom line with ratings and money. So and I'm not the only one. I think our whole side saw that. And yes, Biden was terrible, but CNN was, in my mind, 1,000 times worse. Trump he is what he is. He's an evil caricature of what a human being could be or would be if they were possessed by a demon or something like that. He's a horrible person, and CNN should have had the guts. And I think what Trump did was lay out the groundwork by saying that they were going to be against him, and he's the same playbook he uses for everything. When he thinks he's going to lose, he gets into the heads of the debaters and the debate, and he impacts the debate before the debate starts.
Well,
CNN walk right into that trap.
What CNN, Jake Tapper, and Dana Bash did is exactly what the media has done for 8 years. And this is why I think the media, both the left side and the right side media, are responsible for Donald Trump being president of the United States. They kept putting him on the air and gave him legitimacy when he wasn't even really a serious candidate. He became a serious candidate because of all the exposure these media outlets, left and right, including MSNBC. But what happened in that debate is what they've done all along. They love the shit show. They love the train wreck. So they just let him go. I've said before that in 2016, had he shown up on a news outlet and he started spewing lies, if he had been pushed back and cornered and made to answer the question and answer his lies, he would not have been president. But instead, they let him go ride roughshod, go rogue, do whatever he wanted because they knew it meant views and money. And that was probably the biggest sin committed by anybody is the media. They let this clown show go and go and go, and they never held him accountable. They never pushed back. So people are led to believe that, well, if they didn't push back, it must be true. And that's how the misinformation gets out in the narrative because nobody bothers to push them back. I'll tell you this, I'm just an old white guy sitting in my living room. If I was interviewing Donald Trump, I guarantee you I would have him frothing on the ground because, and I'm not saying that I'm that smart. I just know who this guy is. And if you pushed him and pushed him and pushed him, he's either going to cry or he's going to stand up and walk out. And this was the problem, the two different styles in the debate. You had Joe, who's kind of slow and kind of plotting, knows the facts, wants to tell the truth to the people. And then you got this other clown just yapping away at 100 miles an hour. That's not a good combination for a debate.
Oh, it's right. I mean, if at a minimum they had said, well, Mr. Trump, what is a black job?
Yeah.
Tell us what a black job. If nothing else, that fool would have said, came up with something stupid. He didn't answer half the questions.
No.
They'd ask him a topic. They'd say, "You've got 2 minutes." He'd move on to back to immigration again. And it got old. It got disgusting that the moderators could not be forceful and do the pushing back that frankly a moderator should be required to do. If they ever hold another debate, I won't watch it. I won't watch
No.
anything on CNN. I mean, I'm so done with them. When Ted Turner owned them, they were the only game in town, but they were a reasonable news organization.
Right, right.
And they're a far cry from that.
In order for Joe Biden to have done well in that debate, and I said this before the debate, because we knew Donald Trump was going to be a shit show. We knew he was going to lie. We knew he was going to go off on tangents. When you're in a debate or a fight with somebody like that, you got to kind of match their energy. They're bullies. And once they can roll over you, they won. If you step back or defer, they win. But if you come in strong, smacking the taste out of their mouth right from the beginning, then they fucking lose it. Joe's not that kind of guy, so he couldn't match that energy. But as much as they want to say Joe did badly that day, clearly, while the media is not focusing on it, the people saw what they needed to see of Donald Trump. The crazy shit he was saying, the racist shit he was saying, the misogynist stuff he was saying, that hit home with a lot of folks, and that cost him in spite of what they're trying to do. They just did what they always do. They pick a little thing, they exaggerate it and say, oh no, he's horrible. He did a horrible job in order to cover up the absolute bullshit that they had. It didn't work like Donald Trump thought, and he has been upset about the polls. He expected he'd be a big winner, and that's not happening.
I'm still enjoying on TikTok all the black job memes that are going. I sent you one the other day that just tickled me. But those things are so important. This is why they hate TikTok, because that is getting into an audience that is a voting age, and together the millennials and Gen Z outnumber us boomers. And so even if they didn't watch the debate, they could see the memes and they could see the rest of the things that have come out. And today was all about the Supreme Court, all over the place on TikTok. That's important information. All that is going to the biggest voting segment that we have. And the powers that be despise TikTok because of its ability to inform and influence in a positive way voters. CNN, the fact that they're losing to TikTok even MSNBC, the fact that they're losing to social media, I'm okay with that, because I think the truth is getting out in a way that it means something to the younger people.
Yeah. I think mainstream media is in the same mindset as the Republicans. Because if you look at millennials and Gen Zs, they don't watch TV. Everything's on their phone or
Right.
on their computer. They want short bits, and that's why TikTok goes so well for them. They want short bits of information. They're not going to sit and watch MSNBC, CNN, Fox, OAN. They aren't going to watch that shit. And as much as
Yeah.
Republicans may be becoming extinct, I think mainstream media is having some problems too. We know CNN's losing all kinds of money. That's what they say anyway. Um, I used to work in radio, and people say, "Would you ever want to go back in radio?" Fuck no. I have a bigger audience on TikTok and in the podcast than I ever had in my radio. Nobody's listening to radio anymore. It's a dying business. And, you've got the guys that are the big time morning jocks. They aren't making as much as they used to make because there aren't as many people listening. And the same thing is going on with TV. We are looking at the slow demise of mainstream media. It's all going to be like TikTok or Facebook or whatever. For better or worse, that's where it's headed when millennials and Gen Zs finally take over the majority in this country.
Yeah, you couldn't get a rise of Rush Limbaugh today. I mean,
No,
there's 100 Rush
no,
Limbaughs out there on social media, and he wouldn't make any traction even amongst the far right.
no.
Um, and you look what happened to what's his name over who got sued and just looked for $1 billion.
Alex
He's dead.
Jones.
His Alex Jones dead. That's dead. You can only lie so much and get away with it, and he's dead. So I mean, there's pushback going on for some of these evil motherfuckers like Alex Jones and Rush Limbaugh. He passed away at the right time, and I hope he's enjoying his rest in hell.
Yeah.
Um, but the fact remains that regular media is dying little by little by little, and they're not competing, and so they're trying to go ahead and get rid of their competitors that are much more meaningful to today's young.
Yeah, I won't say it's me because it's not me, but there are people on TikTok and in podcasts right now that have 10 times the audience that MSNBC, CNN, or even Fox have. These podcasters and these people on TikTok that have millions of viewers are way more powerful than CNN or MSNBC. And that's just the way it's going. And I think that's why they've kind of gone to the sensationalism, the salaciousness. They have to appeal to a crowd to get them to come watch. And it's getting harder for them to get people to come and watch. I mean, when I watch MSNBC, I don't watch for the stories. I just want the headlines. Because once I know what the news story is, I'll dig out the facts on my own. I'm not going to count on them to tell me shit. I need to read it. I need to go to good sources. But when I turn on MSNBC and they say there's a Supreme Court decision about immunity, I don't listen to their shit. I go immediately to Reuters or PBS or even Raw Story or Huffington Post. At least I know I'm going to get a perspective that's somewhat legitimate, and then I try to corroborate it, and then that's how I come up with what I have to say. As long as it's facts and it can be corroborated, chances are good that it's real.
Yeah, and I'm an MSNBC fan like you. I'm well aware of who they are, and at least they're on our side. But they also lead the charge. They led the charge recently on the panic, the Great Biden Panic.
Right,
A day after,
exactly.
more. Mika is on one side, Joe's on the other. Joe's essentially calling for Biden to leave, and Mika is saying, he should stay. It was one bad debate, but the whole day was that. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, they panic people. So then I have to go back to TikTok and to Huffington Post and read. And like you, I'll get my basic headlines from them because they can be out there quicker sometimes than TikTok, but not always.
Not
And I
always.
go, okay, let me go read this next. Get it from you and Midas Touch and Hawk and all the rest of them, Chasing Oz, and just on and on and on. it's a changing world, and I think we will change with it, and I'm glad the demographics are going the way they are going, because right now this is the last hurrah of Christian nationalism and conservatism. They know that they're going to lose in the long run, so they're playing all their marbles right now. They've got the Supreme Court where they needed it to be. They've got their allies in Congress and in the state houses across the country. They are shooting their wad right now. The thing that can make this a longer effort that would last longer is if Trump gets in the White House. Take Trump out of the White House, let him lose, and then we can start to fix the country, starting with the court and on down.
Right. Right. And that's the important thing people have to understand. Whatever's happened in this last week or last couple of weeks, it all can be fixed. It will take time, but it will take you to vote out the Republicans. And there's no better reason than what we've just seen. There's one other guy that's been a good source of mine, and I know a lot of people like him. I don't know if you watch him or not, but he doesn't need my promotion. It's a kid. His name is Harry Sisson. He's like 20
I
years
love
old.
Harry. I love Harry. Yep, yep.
Harry is a very bright kid. He's very smart. He's very articulate. He was on with Piers Morgan the other day, and Piers was trying to press him. And Harry held his own against Piers, and I think Piers is a piece of shit. But he held his own there. But he's a very smart kid. He understands what's going on, and he's one of the few young people I've ever seen that we're kind of on the same wavelength. He said the same thing about the debate. Just fucking relax. And he's right. I mean, it never pays to panic and react. It doesn't work. So I honestly think that's the one thing I found too. As much as I would watch mainstream news just to get the stories, I find myself more so going to TikTok, like you say, the Midas touches. I don't like the fact that their stories are so long, but they do have real and factual information. And some of the other people, if nothing else, I can probably get a lot of information faster on TikTok than I can on the mainstream media.
Oh, sure, sure. Like I'm like the Bulwark has started showing up on my feed. They're kind
Yeah.
of like Midas Touch, big organization, but they panic too. Right after the debate, I don't know who he is on the Bulwark. Comes up, and it's Joe's got to go. Joe's got to go. Where is this guy Harry? He gets on and goes, "Whoa, wait a minute! Why are we going to dump? The guy who brought us this far was Don Juan, and you list all the accomplishments." So we need more Harrys. We need a lot more Harrys, but we also need the bulwarks. We need competition against the MSNBCs, but particularly the CNNs and Foxes. Fox is not even a news network anyway. It's just a propaganda machine for the Republican Party.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you brought up Steve Bannon a little bit ago. Yesterday was a momentous day. He did everything he could to try to stay out of jail, but to no avail. He even begged the Supreme Court to do something, which was weird to me because at the last moment, we're the last days of the term, and he wants the Supreme Court to take this up. He's got delusions of grandeur. Steve Bannon is nobody. He doesn't work for anybody. He's got this stupid fucking podcast, and he's a criminal. He should have been in jail before this particular term that he's serving, but he's in jail now. That's why I told people everybody hates Mondays because it's a bad day. And I said, well, this Monday, you can always look to one person that's got a worse day, and that is Steve Bannon, because he's going to be brought into jail, stripped naked, deloused, sprayed down, and put in a cell with some other criminals. The only good part about Steve Bannon is that he's going to feel comfortable because he's going to be around nothing but criminals, and that's pretty much been his life anyway. The upside to this for Steve Bannon is that for once, even though they're going to be ugly, for once he'll have clean clothes on. So that'll be good. For the first time ever, Steve Bannon will have clean clothes and not be able to dress like a 4-year-old.
He always looks like he kind of reminds me of Pigpen from Peanuts. He looks like he's got flies flying around him. We know that's the case with Donald Trump. To watch Bannon go to jail, but I don't think it's a long sentence, right? It's like 4 or 5 months.
4 months.
Yeah, and because it was just, disregarding Congress was like one major issue. And I've never seen anybody really go to jail for that. So, it's wonderful. They got him on one charge. He was found guilty, and there he is now. So, just a couple months in jail, and he's gonna miss the convention. His voice won't be there. He'll come out, and he'll be terrible when he comes out. But at least he'll have, felony on his record, if nothing else.
Well, keep in mind too that he's not the only one to go to jail because Peter Navarro is still in jail too for the very same thing. But Steve Bannon fucked this up. He could have done his 4 months 2 years ago, no big deal. He's supposed to be an advisor to Donald Trump. He's supposed to be doing a podcast giving the important lies. But for the next 4 months, he's going to be out of commission. He's going to be silenced. And this is pissing him off. He went to the Supreme Court, said, I'm important. I got to be an advisor to the president. Well, by law, he can't be an advisor to a president because a convicted felon can't associate with another convicted felon. So he's out of a job there. He's going to be quieted for the next 4 months and he won't be able to participate or be in the narrative for the upcoming election. This dumb fuck outsmarted himself.
Yeah, and so now we've got two media companies, the evil media companies, kind of out of business for a while, and that's a good thing. I mean, there'll be others that will raise to be his place, but he was an important voice for the far right. It's nice that he'll be silent for at least 4 months because if there was going to be a danger from the far right, I think he would be in the thick of it.
Now, one thing to note here. He's going to be in jail for 4 months. Some people say, well, he'll get time off for good behavior. You really think that's going to happen with Steve Bannon? He's going to be on good behavior? I doubt that. But here's the other thing you have to understand is that in September, before he's let out, he's going on trial again for ripping off Trump-la-fucks. So he may get to that 4 month period, get out, and he may go back the fuck in because he's going to be tried with another case. Steve Bannon is pretty much done. And then after that trial, I think there's an excellent chance he's going to show up in the superseding indictments from Jack Smith regarding January 6th, because he was there. So I don't know that Steve Bannon should make any long-term plans at this point because his future is going to be checkered at best.
But this is how it is with Trump. If you go in his orbit, no matter how bad or evil, somehow you're going to be destroyed.
Right.
And it doesn't matter whether you're on the side of Trump or you're kind of against him, but you kind of circle around him. And so the Republican Party, just like Bannon, is going to find out what it's like to be around, like the so-called political antichrist of Trump. That's what he is. He's everything melts and destroys that's around him. He's a single wrecking crew. His marriage is in the toilet. His relationship with at least one of his kids is gone. He looked nuts during the debate. He's despised and he's hated. He's got no friends. He's got nobody to turn to. Bannon is somebody that would listen to him because only Bannon wants something from Trump. That's gone. So there's some karma that's going on here. It's a shame he's got to do some damage on his way out the door, though. Both those guys have.
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising that they would do this because they know what ultimately is going to happen. But I think that's the future for Donald Trump. When we come to the election and he loses, Donald Trump has nothing for anybody anymore. He's not the candidate. He won't be the president. The Republicans will have lost again under the flag of Donald Trump. At some point, they've got to walk away from him. And I think that November 3rd election, when he loses, is going to be that point. So again, once that's over, he's going to be an island unto himself. He's going to have to go through 3 trials, whether it's more limited than we thought it would be. He's still got to go on trial. As I said in the beginning, when he got the 88 charges, it doesn't like he's got to get convicted of all of them. He's only got to get convicted of 1 or 2 and get put in jail because that motherfucker won't last a year in jail. He will not last a year in jail. And if he does, when he comes out, nobody's going to want to touch him.
Yeah, he's going to be some big bald head guy with a lot of neck tattoos, personal property. Yeah, yeah, he's, and you know what? But that would be justice. Is I haven't heard anything recently about money being taken away from his organization. I have no idea if that's on appeal or not. But if it is on appeal, it's going to come. That appeal is going to end, and money's going to be taken away from his organization. So with any luck, he'll die broke too.
Well, he's already struggling with the money thing because people ask me about this a lot. What about the Letitia James thing? And what people have to understand is he was um, he was sentenced to $90 million for E. Jean Carroll and another $450 million for Letitia James. And people are think that he's gotten away free from that, that he hasn't had to pay any of the money yet. And that's not true. He's had to post a $90 million bond. He's either had to come up with some kind of property or cash. And in the one for the Letitia James, they tried to post a bond and tried to pull a fast one. It didn't work. So they had to come up with some kind of money to post the bond to give them security. So there's 200, what is there, 90 and 275. So there's about, what, $300 million that Donald Trump
Yeah,
cannot
we're way
touch.
over that.
Donald Trump
Yeah.
cannot touch that money. It's in limbo. It's in this account that he cannot touch and he has no authority over. So, as much as those appeals aren't done yet and he hasn't paid the full amount, there's a pretty big chunk coming out of his ass that he cannot touch. And that is kind of hobble to him.
Yeah, and those are not cases that the Supreme Court should be able to touch.
No, they can't.
So
They're not going to.
exactly. So yeah, he's it's a lot of money that's just gonna just disappear on him, and thank good. So there's karma coming. We just need to wait. You know, we're worried about the election, but there's stuff that's gonna happen to Trump in the next 6 months that's gonna make put a smile on all our faces.
Yeah.
And it's not over. It's not over. A funny thing happened. I was listening to Midas Touch, and a mic picked up a gurgle um, during one of Trump's rants at the debate. And what
Yeah.
they said
Yeah.
is that was Trump pooping in his diaper. You know, so the universe is paying him back in all sorts of small, insulting ways. We may not all be aware of it, but there's stuff happening to him, and it couldn't happen to a better person.
Well, that's why I've said before that I question whether or not he will be the nominee ultimately by November. I think he'll be named the nominee in the next couple of weeks because what else do they got? But I think ultimately, with all that's going on and all that's crashing down on him, as much as he thought he won something this yesterday, the cases are going to continue. He's not going to be able to throw out the cases. He's not going to be able to throw out the 34 felony convictions. It's not going to happen. And if you're a 77, 78-year-old man with not the best health and not the best mental acuity, this is some pretty crushing shit. If he makes it to November, that would be amazing. I would be surprised by that. Now, that said, I hope he stays in. I hope he's the candidate because I think that gives the Democrats the best option just to kick his ass and get some closure to this shit. But I don't know how a man in his current condition and age gets through all this shit because it's going to get worse as time goes on.
Yeah, I think now that he's not sitting in a courtroom because he was looking pretty bad in the courtroom. I really thought he would have a stroke. He managed to survive that, and so he's like a cockroach. You can't really kill. He's probably, his time is coming. I also want the Republicans' time to come. Well, it'll be interesting to see which Republicans avoid their convention in
Yeah.
Milwaukee. That's going to be fascinating because the king is going to be coronated. And unfortunately, whether you want him to be coronated or not, if you're a Republican, you got to show up or have a valid excuse, that so we will see. And if he's in jail at that time, which we're hoping, you and I are hoping that's what happens. Then we'll see who really shows. But bad things are coming his way.
Absolutely.
Bad, and it just, you can't. And this is that time of life where he really should be just enjoying himself, sitting in Mar-a-Lago, enjoying the praise of people and the fact that he's at his business. But his entering into politics is almost like a Shakespearean story where he has a high moment, and he's had a couple high moments, but at the end, nothing good's going to happen to him at the end of the story.
I've known a few narcissists in my life, and they have their high period, but the end is always the same. And I've told this story before. The one narcissist I knew the best was my father. And during the 70s and 80s, when he was young and working, he was making all kinds of money. He wasn't a billionaire or even necessarily a millionaire, but he was making probably 10 times as much as anybody around him. So when I was growing up, there was plenty of money, but I was dealing with a narcissist. This guy was flying high. He was doing whatever he wanted. He was a piece of shit. He was abusive to my mom, verbally abusive to his kids. He wasn't around much. He was just a horrible human being. And he's like these athletes. These narcissists are like athletes who think the money's always going to flow and they'll always be able to play at the top of their game. But that never happens. When my father died, in spite of all his success and all the things that people thought of him, because from a distance he looked good, it's up close where you realized what a piece of shit he was. But when this highly successful guy died, he died in a one-bedroom apartment that was very sparsely furnished with not much there. He had very little money left, and he died in his underwear in a recliner by himself. And I guarantee you something similar to that is what's going to happen to Donald Trump. He is going to be a tragic story when it's all said and done.
Yeah, he's definitely not, probably not going to lower the flag to half mast for him. He's probably not going to get a procession through Washington, D.C. I think he's going to end up on the golf course alongside his former wife, where his grave will be, forgotten. And he'll be buried. The grass will grow over the top of it. The vegetation will sit in, and eventually we'll forget about him. But history won't forget about him.
No.
And the threat will be over. We'll move on to whatever the next big deal is. I think there's never been anyone quite like him before.
No.
And it's a shame that an entire party went along with him. A party that used to have some values, though you and I would never agreed with their values. And he made him possible. And so even after he leaves the political scene, something has to be done about the Republican Party and conservatism. And that's a topic for another podcast. But conservatism has been a cancer on the blight of this country for a long time. The politicians that are in it don't represent it, and you marry conservatism to Christian nationalism, to the billionaires and millionaires that fund their movements. That's the next big challenge, even when Donald Trump is not here. And in a way, they're even more dangerous than he is.
Yeah, no question. Donald Trump is a fool. He's nothing more than a useful idiot. And the people that are evil and that want to do these things to this country know how to manipulate him. He's a very easy guy to manipulate. All you have to do is pat him on the back, tell him he's a good boy, and he'll do anything you want. And I think the Mitch McConnells and the Kevin McCarthys knew how to manipulate him, the Putins, the Kim Jong-uns, the Saudi Arabian prince. They all know how to manipulate this guy. They know he's a fool, and if he's running the country, they can get a lot of traction out of it. And that's what's happened. Donald Trump will die, and there will be partying in the streets, but it won't be in honor of Donald Trump. It will be that we are rid of this plight, this pariah in this country. And that's how he will be remembered. The thing that amazes me is that we have Republicans still standing with him. In spite of what they've heard and what they've seen over the 8 years, they still think there's some cachet in standing with him. What's going to be interesting when he finally goes down for the last time, how are these people going to step away and say, yeah, I never liked the guy? Because they will do that. And as far as I'm concerned, anybody that stood with Donald Trump after 2017, there is no going back. There is no forgiveness for those people. What they tried to do to this country is far too egregious. They can't be trusted. They should never be forgiven.
Well, and now that the Supreme Court has said that future presidents have unlimited immunity, maybe Joe Biden won't do anything, but maybe the next Democrat following will,
Right.
because something has to happen. I mean, something the country has. We've been rocked before by political crises and wars and things like that, but it's truly now a war for the soul of the country, with the majority wanting, just wanting to be left alone and being allowed to live their lives in a way to get proper health care, to, not having their pockets picked by corporations, by not having the billionaires being able to have unlimited access to our politicians. We're better than that. We should be better than that. And until we the fight's not over with this election, unfortunately. The fight, there's an intensity to this one because the useful idiot has pieces moving him, and he's just one piece of the puzzle. But there's too many pieces in play that are dangerous of themselves, but together they're more dangerous than just him.
I'm going to throw something out there and see what you think about this. I'm curious as your perspective on this. I think this Supreme Court decision offers up another problem that people haven't thought about. But if you get a president, whoever that might be, Republican or Democrat, that takes full advantage of that immunity and does some horrific things, we become the Old West. And I think it opens up the possibility that this country may experience more assassination attempts. With people being able to do whatever they want, this will scare people. It'll make them mad. And it only takes a few crazy folks to try to do something about it. I think that Supreme Court decision puts presidents at risk. Yes, now they've given the label, they can do whatever they want. If a Democrat's in, the Republicans are going to freak out. If the Republican is in, the Democrats are going to freak out. This is going to create a little more. I mean, I hope it doesn't, but I just know how people react. If you've got some guy in there just being lawless, people are going to say, "A fuck enough. We got to do something about it." And that's one of the things I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I think you're. I think you're onto something. I think you're definitely onto something. So let's say Biden wins, and it's a Democrat. Maybe Kamala Harris follows him or something like that. They have unlimited immunity. That's going to be played out in right-wing media. I mean, to the point where it's going to bring some people over the edge, quite a few people over the edge. And we still haven't done anything about guns and the rest of it. So yeah, I think there's a better than even possibility that there'll be more chances of assassination of sitting presidents. And I think the same sort of holds on the other side too. I mean, having, I don't know, DeSantis in office, there's a wicked son of a bitch that would use the power of unlimited immunity to do all sorts of damage.
Right.
And we're getting ourselves, this Supreme Court thing has opened the doorway to a potential military coup. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theory, but I can see generals and admirals sitting there with another crazy motherfucker who's using unlimited power to do all sorts of stuff. And for the good of the country, they could step in. And we say, well, it's the United States. No, the United States is a country like any other country. And lots of countries have had coups. And because they didn't have the guardrails we have. Well, with no guardrails and an evil motherfucker in the office, I know as a former military guy that the thought would be, how do we save this country? I mean, from this guy. I was surprised that the entire chief of staffs did not quit under Trump. I think they stayed because they knew them leaving would have opened up the door to somebody that would be more than willing to do what he wants. So there's more ramifications just than the assassinations. There's now ramifications that the military might have to act for the best interests of the country.
Right.
Do I think it'll happen because it's the stuff of a novel? I don't know, but we've never seen anything like what's going on right now.
Well, here's the big problem with it too. It's one thing if a president can do whatever he wants, but it's what the media has done to this country. The left side thinks if Donald Trump gets in, that is the ruination of this country. The right side says if Joe Biden stays in, that is the ruination of this country. To both sides, it's the ultimate disaster if the other side wins. That's what fosters anger and fear and violence. That's what I'm concerned about. Whichever side you're on, you're thinking if the other side wins, we're done. It didn't used to be like that, but that's the way it is now, and that's thanks to the fucking media.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. They continue to create anger, anger and fear. And Fox does it probably better than MSNBC does it, but they both do it. CNN. That's all they have now. I mean, they try to generate it on both sides. There's nothing fair and balanced about CNN either.
No.
But you're exactly right. Whoever is going to be in office, the other side is not convinced. They've made us where that's it. Everybody's viewpoints are locked in, and there's no changing. There's no moving. There's just absolute hatred of the other tribe. Now, we used to be all Americans, and we're not anymore. Now we're just two tribes staring at each other, wondering who's going to make the first move and what do we do about it.
Well, because I'm known for being the glass half full guy, I think we're talking about some disastrous potential things, but I think the important thing people have to understand, in spite of what we saw last week with the debate and the Supreme Court decisions and all that stuff, all is not lost. There is hope.
No.
There is an angle, and that has to be to begin with the election. And I'm a firm believer that Donald Trump and the Republicans have just done nothing but sabotage it for themselves with Roe v. Wade and now this Supreme Court decision. This is all going to weigh heavy on Democrats. They're going to feel afraid and they're going to come out and vote in huge numbers. I still believe Donald Trump will not be the president ever again. I don't think any Republican will be the president in 2024. I think Joe Biden will do fine unless he can't, and then we'll worry about that when that happens. But we can't start agonizing about this shit now. We're on track to win this election. Let's stay on that track until we can't. And maybe that day doesn't come. But we can't start worrying about shit we don't need to worry about yet.
No, you're absolutely right. You can't get into a what if loop. If you get into a what if loop, it just melts your brain. Yeah. And you're doing your job. I think there's enough warning by everybody else doing their jobs, and now it's just going to be up to the voter. Personally, on a personal level, I have lots of friends I know a lot of people who vote for Trump, and they're frankly Americans just like I am. And when you take it down to that basic level, it brings the heat down a little bit, and that's what I think the average citizen needs to do. I think they need to take a friend to work who's of the opposite mindset politically. Be kind, talk to them, and we avoid all this bullshit. We're all passionate, but we're all Americans, and I think if we all treat each other like we've had in the past, and we do even on a daily basis in the grocery store, we'll be fine. We'll be okay. Even if Trump survived, if Trump were to win this thing, I think in the end, I think we're going to survive. Maybe absolutely miserable number of years, but we'll survive them, and history will go on, and America will go on. We got a lot to fix. We shouldn't even be worried about this shit because we have so many other issues to fix: our infrastructure, our healthcare. We need to get Roe roll back on track again.
And
And
for
we're just panicking.
those people listening, if you think there's things to fix and things we have to improve, it's very simple. If you vote for Joe Biden, we have the opportunity to fix those things. If you vote for Donald Trump, none of those things will be fixed, and you may never get the second opportunity to get what you want. I talk about this with young people. They say, well, I don't like Joe Biden. I want what I want right now. And unfortunately, old guys like you and me know that's not how it works. Sometimes you have to take the road less traveled to get to where you want to fucking go. You may not like taking that extra route, but that's the only way to get there. And that's the situation with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. If you don't like Joe Biden, okay, hold your nose and get on the right path where you can get
That's
to
right.
what you want. You're never going to get there with Donald Trump.
Yeah, and youngsters, your turn is coming. Your
Yeah.
generation is coming, and you're going to run the country. And so be patient. We're dying out. Mike and I's generation is leaving the scene in droves. Gen X, I'm not really sure where Gen X is politically. I tend to think they run more on the conservative side, but they're getting old too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hope. Millennials, your turn's coming. You need to do the right thing. Don't become us over time.
Right. Well, after the 2024 election, we get to 25 or 26 after the midterms. I'm ready to say, okay, motherfuckers, you millennials, you Gen Zs, you have the majority of the voters in this country. Show us what you got. I'm an old man. I'm going to relax, and you're responsible for your own destiny. You've been talking a lot. Now's your chance to show us, and I hope they do.
I do too. I mean, they're from what I can see, they're creative in ways that we weren't. They're a lot more adaptable than we
Yeah.
were. I read something or I saw something where Dell Computers told their millennials and workers that you got to come back to the office. You're if you don't come back to the office, you don't have a chance to promote. You're never going to get a raise again. And for our generation, we would never have left the office. We would have sat there and toiled, with no air conditioning, sweating, everybody coughing, and we would have just stuck it out. These guys said, "Fuck you." They didn't go back to the office. They voted against it, and that's that kind of adaptability that I think they may find ways to solve the problem that we've never even thought about. So there's a lot of hope for the future.
Absolutely. Well, Tony, we're going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for coming in. I'm glad I had somebody else to talk to about this shit show from yesterday. And we covered a lot of stuff. And regardless of whatever negative things out there, I know I'm positive about the future, and I know you are too. And that's really the only way to be. If we're not positive about the future, then we both might as well curl up in the fetal position in the corner and just cry until it's over. And I'm not going to do that.
Right. And the audience knows, if they don't know, Mike and I, we have ours. We're going to be fine.
Yeah,
So
I'll
we
be
do
fine.
this. We're going to be fine. We're doing this to sort of say, vote, get out there and vote, get your friends to vote, go out there. This is your opportunity to be fine as well.
I tell you this, I have a 4-year-old granddaughter, and when I'm dead and gone, if this country is shit, I'm coming back and haunting some motherfuckers, and I'm going to be vicious about it. Promise
Yeah, I'm in
you.
the same boat. I'm in the same boat. We'll come down together. We'll grab a few more like-minded those and come back and haunt the right people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Tony, thank you for coming in. Those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.